Today, we're sharing an extraordinary testimony sent in by one of our viewers. A theology student's encounter with an archangel leads to an unexpected journey from janitor to spiritual author. Listen to Alex's story of divine intervention and heavenly promises fulfilled in God's perfect timing. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
Hello, my name is Alex Thornton, and I want to share with you an extraordinary journey that began in 2018 while I was studying at Riverside Theological Seminary. My life changed forever at exactly 3 in the morning on a cold November night. I was in the midst of a crisis of faith. Have you ever felt that the very thing you've dedicated your life to suddenly feels hollow, empty? That's where I was, questioning everything I'd been taught about God and my purpose. I had been up late that night, surrounded by stacks of theological texts, my dissertation notes scattered across my desk, and my heart heavy with doubt. I was failing, not academically, but spiritually. The words on the pages had become just ink, no longer speaking to my soul. I eventually collapsed onto my bed, exhausted but unable to find peace. That's when it happened. I was awakened by a presence in my small apartment bedroom. A light so bright it seemed to pulsate with life itself filled the corner of my room. As my eyes adjusted, I could make out a figure, tall, radiant, otherworldly. My body went completely rigid. I couldn't move a muscle, yet strangely I wasn't afraid. "Alexander," the voice spoke, and the sound seemed to vibrate through my entire being. "I am Michael, sent as a messenger of the Most High, the Archangel Michael, standing in my shabby graduate student apartment. I wanted to speak, to question, but my voice was locked away. You have been chosen as a vessel for divine wisdom," he continued. "Through your written words, countless souls will find their way back to truth. The doubts that plague you now are the very bridges others will cross through your testimony." His words washed over me like warm water, penetrating beyond my skin and into my spirit. Have you ever experienced something so profound that your body can physically feel the weight of the moment? That's what happened to me. "But I'm failing," I finally managed to whisper. "I don't understand enough to guide anyone." Michael's light seemed to pulse brighter. "It is not your understanding that will guide them, but his wisdom flowing through you. Remember this. The pen in a willing hand becomes a lighthouse in stormy seas." And then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the light contracted and was gone. I lay there, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The clock on my nightstand still read 3:15 a.m. Had it been real, or had my exhausted mind created this elaborate scenario? Maybe like me, you've had moments you couldn't explain, experiences that seemed to exist somewhere between reality and dream. What happened next only deepened the mystery. As I drifted back to sleep, still trembling from the encounter, I entered the most vivid dream of my life. I was floating, weightless, through what appeared to be an endless library. Ancient scrolls and leather-bound books lined shelves that stretched beyond what my eyes could see. As I moved through this space, certain books began to glow with an inner light. Drawn to them, I noticed something that sent a shock through my system: my name, Alexander Thornton. It appeared on volume after volume. Books I hadn't written, couldn't have written. The sensation of wonder was overwhelming. Then came the voice, not Michael's, but deeper, vast, like the sound of many waters. "You will translate heaven's wisdom for those seeking truth," it said. "These works are already completed in eternity. Now they must be brought into time." I woke with the first light of dawn streaming through my window, my body drenched in sweat despite the November chill. The experience felt imprinted on my very cells. 2 days later, I withdrew from my doctoral program. My advisor was shocked. My parents were devastated. "You're throwing away everything you've worked for," they said. They couldn't understand that I wasn't walking away from my calling. I was walking toward it. But the path forward wasn't what any of us expected. No publishing deals appeared. No divine manuscript downloaded into my brain. Instead, I felt compelled to move to Millbrook, a small town 300 miles away where I knew no one. The only job I could find was as a janitor at St. Matthew's Church. a modest building with stained glass windows that had long ago lost their brilliance. Do you know what it's like to be utterly certain of something one moment, and then filled with doubt the next? That became my daily reality. By day, I mopped floors, replaced light bulbs, and fixed leaky faucets. By night, I read sacred texts from every tradition I could find, and filled journal after journal with reflections, insights, and questions, always questioning. Was the vision real? Was I delusional? Had I destroyed my future over a dream? This was my dungeon season, not a physical prison, but a time of obscurity and testing, working with my hands while my spirit wrestled with God. Have you ever been in a dungeon season of your own? A time when promises seemed distant and your daily reality didn't match the calling you felt inside. I spent 2 years this way, invisible to most of the congregation, watching silently as they came with their prayers, their hopes, their sufferings. I witnessed their faith journeys from the margins, learning more about the human spirit in those silent observations than I ever had in seminary. Then came the evening that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in late October, almost exactly 2 years after my vision. The church was empty after an evening prayer service. I was sweeping the main aisle, lost in thought about a passage from Isaiah I'd been pondering. The sanctuary was dimly lit, just the soft glow of the eternal flame and a few security lights. I didn't notice him at first. A distinguished older man with silver hair and kind eyes, sitting alone in the last pew with an open Bible in his lap. When I finally saw him, I apologized for disturbing his prayer. "No disturbance at all," he said with a warm smile. "The sound of honest work is its own form of worship, isn't it?" Something in his manner invited conversation. We began to talk, first about the church building itself, then about deeper matters. His name was Dr. Elijah Montgomery, a visiting religious scholar giving a series of lectures at a nearby university. He'd come to the church seeking a quiet place to prepare his thoughts. "There's something special about this space," he said, glancing around, a sincerity to it. I nodded, feeling an unusual openness with this stranger. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, how spaces hold the prayers and intentions of those who gather in them. He looked at me with sudden interest. "That's a profound observation. Not what I'd expect from—" He hesitated. "From the janitor," I finished for him with a small smile. "It's all right. I know my role here." Dr. Montgomery studied me for a long moment. "What's your story, young man? There's something more here, isn't there?" And so, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence, I told him about my academic background, about my crisis of faith. I stopped short of sharing the vision and the dream. Those still felt too personal, too precious to risk having them dismissed. But when our conversation turned to the nature of divine wisdom, something compelled me to share a few passages from my journals. I ran to the maintenance closet where I kept my backpack and brought back my most recent notebook. "These are just personal reflections," I said apologetically, "nothing scholarly." Dr. Montgomery took the journal with reverence, as if receiving a sacred text. He read in silence, turning page after page. The minutes stretched on. I stood awkwardly, suddenly embarrassed and regretting my impulse to share such private thoughts. Finally, he closed the journal and looked up at me. His eyes were glistening. "Alexander," he said quietly, "do you understand what you have here?" I shook my head, confused by his reaction. "This is extraordinary. These insights on the nature of divine love, on suffering, on the mystical tradition. There's an authenticity and clarity here that's rare even among scholars who've devoted decades to these questions." His words sent a tremor through me. For the first time in 2 years, I felt a whisper of the presence I'd experienced that night in my apartment. "You need to compile these writings," Dr. Montgomery continued. "These aren't just personal reflections, they're meant to be shared." He told me about a small publishing house that specialized in spiritual works, run by a friend of his. "Let me introduce you to her. She needs to see this." I wanted to believe him, but doubt still clung to me. "I'm just a janitor," I said. Who would want to read my thoughts on theology? Dr. Montgomery's response pierced straight to my heart. Moses was a shepherd. David was a shepherd boy. The disciples were fishermen. The messengers of divine wisdom rarely come from expected places. I felt tears forming. The words of the Archangel echoed in my mind. The pen in a willing hand becomes a lighthouse in stormy seas. Could this be what he meant? Was this scholarly stranger the key to fulfilling that prophetic message? Why would you help me? I asked. You don't even know me. Dr. Montgomery smiled gently. Let's just say I've learned to recognize divine appointments when they occur. And this, Alex, is definitely one of those moments. 3 weeks later, I found myself sitting across from Catherine Wells, the publisher Dr. Montgomery had mentioned. She was a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they fell upon. We met in her office in Chicago, a warm space filled with books and the scent of cinnamon tea. Dr. Montgomery had already shared selections from my journals with her. To my astonishment, she wanted to publish them. Not someday, not after extensive editing, but now, as they were. There's a rawness and authenticity in your writing that can't be manufactured, she explained. You navigate the space between doubt and faith with unusual honesty. People need that right now. 6 months later, my first book was published. Divine Whispers, Finding Faith in the Questions, was a modest release from a small publisher. I expected nothing, perhaps a few hundred copies sold, read by friends of Dr. Montgomery and some of Catherine's loyal readers. What happened next still leaves me in awe when I think about it. The book found its audience, or perhaps more accurately, the audience found the book. Letters began arriving at the publisher's office, emails, social media messages, people sharing how specific passages had spoken directly to their situations. A woman who read the chapter on grief while sitting by her husband's hospital bed. A pastor struggling with burnout who found renewed purpose in the section on divine calling. A college student questioning everything who discovered permission to doubt within a framework of faith. Within 9 months, the book had sold over 100,000 copies and was being translated into 11 languages. Major publishers began reaching out with offers for my next work. I found myself invited to speak at conferences, churches, and universities. The Archangel's words were coming true before my eyes. Through my writing, souls were finding their way to truth, not because of my great wisdom or perfect theology, but because I had been honest about my questions, my struggles, and the unexpected ways divine light had broken through my darkness. Dr. Montgomery remains a dear friend and mentor. When I asked him once why he had come to that small church on that particular evening, he smiled mysteriously. I had a very strong impression that I needed to be there, was all he would say. I've written 4 books now. Each one has reached people I could never have imagined connecting with. My words have traveled to places I've never been, touched lives I'll never meet. And it all began with an angelic visitation at 3 a.m. and a dream of books yet unwritten. Perhaps you're in your own dungeon season right now. A time when promises seem distant and your daily reality doesn't match the calling you feel in your heart. Maybe you're mopping floors literally or figuratively, while visions of greater purpose remain just out of reach. I want to encourage you. The dungeon is not your destination, it's preparation. Every sweep of the broom, every moment of faithful obscurity is forming something in you that will be essential for what lies ahead. The divine timing rarely matches our preferred schedule, but it is perfect. And when heaven's moment arrives, things can change with breathtaking speed. The most important lesson I've learned through all of this is that our greatest ministry often flows from our deepest struggles, the questions that have no easy answers, the doubts that forced me to dig deeper, the wilderness seasons where God seemed silent. These became the very soil from which authentic wisdom grew. So I speak this blessing over you now. May you trust the process even when the path seems unclear. May you find purpose in your dungeon seasons, knowing they are temporary but necessary. May your willing hands become instruments of divine light in whatever form that takes in your life. And may you recognize the moment when an unexpected conversation becomes the turning point in your story. The same God who sent an archangel to my apartment that night is watching over the promises he's planted in your heart, and not one of them will go unfulfilled. I'm Alex Thornton, and this is my testimony of divine wisdom and heavenly timing. The journey continues, and I remain in awe of where it leads.
Alex's journey from doubt to divine purpose reminds us that God often works in ways we least expect. How did this testimony speak to you today? Are you in your own waiting season, trusting for promises to be fulfilled? Send us your story at the email in our description. Your testimony might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. Until next time, may you recognize God's hand guiding your path, even in the most humble circumstances.